Gold in the Streets, Darcy Niland. Chapter 1. Hey, it's my turn, Biggity. Ah, shut your head. Willie, look out for that bike. Come here, you little hound, off the road. I said get to hell. You're not getting any. Ronnie gone home when I tell yer. Bang, Dad, da-da-da. Bang. Go on. Fall over. You're dead. Ah, that ain't fair, Massey. And there was you, the scrawny kid adopted by the McInerneys, and plowing the land for them, digging the potatoes, sowing the barley and wheat, feeding the pigs, banging your naked knees on the heavy swill bucket and the mud squidging between your toes, but with the dreams in your eyes. Jesus, you'll be kind to me. Jesus, you'll see to it I'm not like this all me days. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, whose name died on the breath of me mother's lips, you'll fetch me out of this and set me a place in the world. Christ, don't desert me. Christ, give me strength. You that has me father and me mother, ask them to pray for me and watch over me and help me. Jesus, Jesus, listen. 11, 12, 13, 14, the young years were on you, but giving you maturity beyond them. Working you like an animal out of its environment. And that bastard McInerny. This is my farm of 40 acres. But I will build it to 400 acres, and I will be a wealthy man. I have time in me yet, and I have the guts of the toiler. On 10 acres of my fit land, I grow potatoes and cabbages and turnips, and vary them with barley and wheat. I have paid off my farm to the government, and I own my farm. This is my cottage, 3 rooms long and thatched. On the inarable land I grow good hay to feed my cows and horses. My pigs are fat, though they live on offal. My turbary right gives me the best portion of the hog from which to cut my peat. I am a respected man in the village, and hats are doffed to me at the market. The priest is my friend, and I am able to pay my support to the pastor. God is with me. The great McInerny that was built like a bank, that paid you nothing but kept your strength up with a whip and a dish of spuds, that worked you from the last stars to the first, and expected you to get your sleep on a sofa in the parlor with an old coat over you, that hated his wife for her bareness and took it out on her in every way he could, that thrashed you for getting sick. You'll get them pigs to market, but he can't go in that rain. Her and him with such a death of cold on him. You'll get them pigs to market, you hear, and you sitting on the cart, crying, the old mare slobbing through the mire, the rain on the mountains colored like suds and clean as glass in the air, and puddling the earth, and you not kernelled out of it, but part of it as wet as the wet itself, with the ooze squelching out of your boots, and the cold, pasty lay of your clothes on your back, and a violent shivering at you. You, with the self-pity, let it fester me lungs, this rain and cold, put the green phlegm in my throat. Let it knife me chest, and let me die out of it. What do I care? Let me death be on him, and an affliction on his name, and maybe he will suffer, and the sorrow will come to him. And you, in your fierceness, the rebel knocking in your blood, run off, tell him to kiss your rear, and get you out of it. The roads lead south, and there's a warm hand for you in Dublin. There's a warm hand for you anywhere but here. God help me, I'll do it, I'll do it. Where would you get? Where would you hide? For the hate and rage would fill him, and the police would be on you, your tail, for a thief. And there's no doubt they'd find you and bring you back and if he wanted they'd put you in jail. But he wouldn't. The jail where he was, and he was the jailer, and the way he'd handle you would be worse than all the jailers in the Irish country. Long after police had gone, long after the day of the deed, the violence would be strong in him and turned into cruelties against you. Beaten, starved, worked till you dropped. O Christ and Mother of Christ, are you deaf? Why don't you help me, or am I too little to be seen? No good, sweet Jesus and Blessed Mary, guide me and show me what to do. Bring me out of this and make me happy. I thank you for all you've done for me, and without your help I can do nothing. Oh, you're back. Get in there and get your wet things off. We don't want you dying on us. She took care of you, the poor little wild-eyed thing, while your eyes ran with water and your nose with snot, giving you medicine, sneaking you broth, keeping you warm, trying with him for a doctor, and being told harshly to shut her gob, and she was a fine one to talk of doctors when they couldn't fix the thing that made her sterile. 16, 17, 18. The years were going, and they showed in your widening chest, in your filling arms, but your mind was ahead of them by far, with a maturity beyond your experience, and you went to a dance or two, now partly defying him, though you went in your own time. You went in there on Saturday nights, not so well dressed as the dressed-up young Irishmen, standing so stiff they looked to be wearing cardboard suits. But the girls had their eyes on you, and you on them, pleasing you with their color and life of them, and the imp in their eyes. And then that one that came from the other village, and troubled all your waking hours, to your shame and disgrace, and your fear of offending God, until that night when you had her alone, and you took her in a tumult of exquisite sweetness that left you powerless. And after it you felt the shame, and you despised her for tempting you, detested her for finding and having the weapon that brought you great strength to crumbling weakness. But the spasms of delight flickered in your mind like hues of light, and brought your blood to singing and filled you with pride and admiration in your virility. Yet the sin weighed on you, so that you never went to a dance again, for fear she'd be there, and with each stranger that came to see McInerney, your heart was in your mouth. For each man that you saw, near or distant, in the part you became, sick with anxiety lest it be her father. But no one came, and you let yourself think about the deliciousness of that girl, like a ripe apple when you put your teeth into it, like honey on your lips. The thoughts fought their way past the gate in your mind, the gate that had grown there from the talk of your mother, the talk of the priest, the talk of your conscience. They fought their way past, seeking to nestle in nooks of meditation that belonged to those silences when the day's work was done and the emptiness of life was about you. How much more of this life must I bear? If I'm embittered, I have every right to be embittered. Where do I get being good? If good must beat evil, good must become a better salesman than evil, or why should I be interested? And the nights when McInerney was with his wife became more significant. The bestial grunts of him as you listened, and the thin, slow sobbing of the woman, till the pleasure of your eavesdropping and the detail of your imagination drowned themselves in the wrath that took you, till you could have gone in there and beat that face of his, and he had welted yours into blood and bruises. I'm up to the top now, and one day soon I'll spill over, and I'll kill you as Christ is my judge. As Christ is my judge, I'll do it for her too, her that I hide and try to protect when the booze docks in you, when you are all the devils in hell wrapped up in one. But it never came to that, for McInerney went down on his bed, and he lay there screaming, "Kill me, for the love of Jesus, kill me," his eyes bulging and his mouth open like a siren. "O Christ, take me, Mary, light of me life, give me something for the pain." His belly swollen and hard, with a glisten on the flesh, you walked out of it over the hill, and the house bursting with your voice. that voice shrieking in the grounds of your ears, sickening your guts, cutting your breathing to short, frightened gasps, up from the ground, down from the sky, in from the trees, the air shrieking the bellow of that man. And the doctor was there, hopeless no more than a quack with a painkiller, no more than a kid with a pea-shooter, and the priest was there, calmer than the lot of you, saying the words, anointing the great feet that kicked you, and the big hands that dealt you blows, and the cruel lips that profaned you as less than the dust. This thing on the bed he got ready for heaven. Calmer than all of you, the priest's death, no stranger to him, not even the terribleness of this death, where a man like a beast lay screeching, bleeding from bitten lips, teeth grinding like a bone mill. Calmer than all of you, standing there. You turned away, and the room was quiet, even as you turned, and the priest whispered, "May God have mercy on his soul, and may he rest in peace." And the doctor said, "Amen," and you got her frail shoulders twitching with the movement of a nervous horse, and ushered her out into the kitchen, she laughing and crying, laughing for the relief in her, and the ending of torture in that slavery of lust and hate, and crying for the ordeal, for the memory of things that might have been, for a spry fellow that was McKinney in his 20s, and with the personality and away with him. And she said to you, after the funeral, in the days that followed, after the funeral when she threw flowers onto his coffin in the grave, "I'm hoping you'll stay with me." Well, don't hope it. I'll not be staying. I'll need you to help me run the place, and that. Someone maybe, but not me. No, I'm out of the cage now like you. I'm free, and I'm going. I don't blame you for the hate that's on this place, and the shadow of him everywhere you turn. It would do you good to be gone, too. Why don't you sell the farm and go and live in the city, away from the memories here? What have I got left me if I sell the farm? What have I got? You're a good woman, and you've got that. No, I've got nothing. I'm a widow. The luckiest widow God ever put breath in, I'd say, but for all that, a widow husbandless. Where can I go? Who's to look after me if not myself? I'm old. You're not old enough, past the time of being wanted, but not past the time of being needed, as he proved, didn't he? No, that's right. There are many, I suppose, who would find a use for me, but I'm not wanting that. It's the need in me for someone. That's what I'm thinking of. I had 3 brothers and 4 sisters, Peter, and we were all of the home, tied with one string. But we went our ways in the world, and whatever happened to us was God's will, I suppose. This was my lot. Well, I defy Christ himself to say it was my lot. Oh, glory be, you mustn't talk like that. I'll talk like that, and a lot worse. I'm fed to the craw with this gabble about what's a man's lot and what's God's will. What's been my lot is my own fault, and it's my will that I stayed here so long. I could cry for the weakness that kept me here. That's what I could do. You'll have a good home here with me. I'll not be like him. I'll have a good home anywhere from now on, because I'll be making it. There's more in life for me than feeding pigs and horses, and milking cows and putting a furrow in the ground. You're young, your heart's big, the world looks small to you because you're bigger. Yes, I know the dreams, but they don't work out. They'll work out for me. I'll get on in this country, poor and hard as it is, and if I don't, then I'll not be chained to it. There are ships to other lands. I'll be on them ships and going to them lands. I'll get on. Christ be with me, I'll get on. Then I wish you well. You were good to me, like a son. You'll never be out of me prayers, while ever I've a breath to say them with. And don't ever go hungry while this house is up and I'm alive. There's a place for you here if you ever return. And you packed the little you had, and it was hard things to leave her, and you might have stayed but for the way the words now and then came out of her about poor McInerney. Poor McInerney, me tittle. That's right, put him among the heroes. Think of him with the saints, with his ghost, and spend cobwebs of good about him, spinning them around the little you might find that could be hidden under a flea's ear, and forget the bad. Praise the dung-worm into a pitiful figure, hang a long face over the pews for him, and listen to the masses for his soul. Glorify him with the love you had early for him, and whitewash him with that love, defending the slip you made and the suffering you brought yourself. Honor and protect him because he belonged to you, because the swine he was disappoints and hurts and humiliates the woman in you that was his wife. What I say about poor McKierney is to the Lord God, pay him out for the years he took out of me, for the hate he gave me and the loneliness, for the terrors and the suffering, for the despair he caused me. Goodbye, Miss McKierney. Goodbye to you, and God be with you. And you left her there in the doorway, with the mud caked on her boots and staining the hem of her dress, a tired, lone little woman waving you over the hill. Blessed be Jesus, you were going away, and not to come back. Truth it was. Walking through another door, in the years into a new life. The road was good, like a carpet to the places you were going. You felt like the lark, spilling himself in space, unyoked as that dotted triangle of birds flying to the sea. You saw, as never before, the green and gold stripe of the gorse, the blue hyacinth clouding the water meadows, and the nesting dappled duck. The sally trees were curdled with green, and you had never seen them before to look at. The plover cried in the upper air, and its voice had been unavailing upon your ears. The thoughts challenged your emotions and brought on your tears, strong tears, a man's tears, and it was a ceremony of gratitude. You got a ride to Louth with a party of piccaninnies, and they wanted you to join them, the girls chirping like birds, and their faces soft as roses in the shade of their big hats. But you kept on going, and it was Holy Thursday at Drogheda when you arrived there, and you went to Mass and looked at the city and went down and watched the fishing boats. The men with trousers rolled over their muscular calves and faces the brown of potatoes, and the little boats lifting like birds on the swell, like the gulls on the swell. This was peace, and the joy was deep in you sitting there. So deep you saw McKierney being let down into the earth, and saw again the way he died, and gave him out of your joy a thought of sympathy. Poor man, and a man came to you. He was rough-voiced and stubbled, and he talked with you, and out of it came a handshake. For you got in with him, and you went out with him in his cobble, and partnered him in the laying of the nets and the trawling. The raw wind and the salt water cracked your hands, and lined them with a selvage of dun flesh along the cracks, and the spray beat through your clothes and drenched you, touching and stirring the cough that McKierney put in your lungs. But it was a great life, a thrilling life, for you were on the breast of water that broke on land's horizon, beyond horizon, and you saw the sun that rose out of France and looked on Ireland and set in America, in the great America where your Uncle Jampsy went with a pudding of a swag and Stony Brook. And there were mates about you that treated you right, and a great bully down from Ardee that you chopped to pieces behind the pub in Connor Street. And there were girls good and sweet, but one of them, a slut with colored combs in her hair, and a sulky pout that made up to you like a bitch on heat, that maddened you with desire until you couldn't keep away from her. Then told you about her. They told you about her, ready to roll with any man. What did she make on you? Have a care, or she'll give you the pox. That frightened you, the bitch you worried, you prayed. You were ashamed to go to a doctor, but you did when They told you it could send you blind, affect your heart, ruin you and your kids, if you ever had any. The doctor said you were all right, thank God. That frightened you all right. You told it in confession, and you felt better and said that you would never commit that sin again. You said it away from the church and the priest, and out in the boat on the sea, and in your room at night. But it weakened, and as you said it, you thought of the deliciousness of that girl, that first girl at the dance, and of this strumpet, and the quiver of her flesh, the clutching greed of her mouth, the provocative limber of her body, and you couldn't crowd out the thoughts. They possessed you in conflict. At the year's end you went on down the coast, and you came to Dublin, and that was too good to be true. This is Dublin, the great city I saw always in a dream, old when Moses was a kid in short pants, or so they say. This is O'Connell Street, and smell the sea air, and this is Nelson's Pillar. Nelson's Pillar, the hide of them English. Tell it to them that you'll be putting up a statue of Parnell, or Bryan, or St. Patrick, or Piccadilly, or a place like that, and how would they say? Dublin, and it laid out before me in the mark of the Danish mind, in the little peaked buildings, and the wee windows set small and tight like the holes in a honeycomb, the sea wind brooming, the light bright buttermilk sky. And this is the post office. I'll go along Dame Street to Dublin Castle. I'll walk up Grafton Street and watch them shopping. These gay people with the good spirit all over their bright faces, and I'll look in the windows, and that's Trinity College, is it? And this is the Liffey, the color of a cow's gentle eye, and the dark fur along its banks where the trees grow. I'm going over the bridge here and into Phoenix Park. Who will beat that park, so green you might find nightingales there, and I'd be a fool if I didn't see the zoo while I'm here. That's right, garp and wonder. Have you never seen a man crying? Ah, Jesus, you don't know what a joy this is to me. Dublin.